Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann program. I am Alex Lawson, sitting in for Thom, and I have the great pleasure of being joined on the phone by Mark Pocan, congressman representing the great state of Wisconsin. Representative Pocan, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Alex. Glad to be here.
So it's obviously it's been a really tough week, and I think there is a lot of despair out there, and I think that it is really important. People can grieve, and I'm not telling people what to do, but I do think that it is critical for progressives to understand that we can't wallow in that despair. We can't walk away from what we've been doing. Nothing in terms of our vision for where we want to get to has been affected. We have to keep fighting for our values and our vision for this country. So what are some of the things that you would point out to our listeners they should focus on, or basically where do you think we should go from here?
Well, I think everyone kind of processes the stages of grief in different ways. And, I myself, I think, was in shock for a couple of days. I couldn't quite believe what had happened. And then, feel some people are angry and some people are at the different levels of where they need to be at this point. But in the end, we've got to not mourn but organize. We need to get out there and be ready for the fights that are going to be very real, because we have to fight them from the grassroots in order to try to win victories and to stop some of the bad things that could potentially happen. I think now more than ever, if people have certain interest areas, they should get more involved, donate more money, do more with the organizations that support the issues that they're working on, because that's where we're going to have to work. It's going to be a partnership between those of us who are in Congress doing our best to line up the votes to defeat things, working with the grassroots and the organizations that are out there that are building that public support in all those districts to make sure that we can fight back what could be some really devastating changes depending where President-elect Trump goes. I think the biggest question we have is, so far all we know from his first pronouncements are that nothing is predictable. Reince Priebus was the ultimate establishment insider, and Steve Bannon was the ultimate white nationalist. Mm-hmm. And they are so different of picks that, we don't know what Donald Trump is yet. So the best thing we can do is let's work with the groups that work on the issues we believe in, help them figure out how to do grassroots mobilization, help them financially, help them be strong organizations, so that when the time comes, we can really pivot and not only fight things, but also let's put out some proactive ideas to show what the better alternative is.
Couldn't agree more, Congressman. I want to say that we have to monitor the Trump administration, the incoming Trump administration, and all signs are extraordinarily abnormal. This is not normal, but I think we have a better understanding of what is likely to come out of the Republican-held Congress. So we have to monitor the not normal goings on in the Trump White House. But it seems like, Paul Ryan, for example, Speaker Ryan, is advancing an agenda that he has been pushing forever.
Absolutely, right? Around Social Security and Medicare, no question.
And we know that's what he's going to do. We know, and he's said it, like the first thing he's going to do is try to destroy Medicare using budget reconciliation, and they're going to go after and try to destroy Medicare. Now, the thing is, no one voted to destroy Medicare. No one voted for that. You have to be the most rabid Ayn Rand ideologue to believe that that is what anyone in America wants. And that, I focus obviously on Social Security and Medicare and high drug prices. But that is something that we're going to work on. We want to engage our grassroots base, but we also want to reach out to our brothers and sisters in red states and engage them on these issues, because, like destroying Medicare, that's not the fighting against attempts to destroy Medicare. That's not a progressive thing. That's not even a Democratic thing or a Republican thing or an independent thing. It's an American thing. No one wants to destroy Medicare. And that's the grassroots sort of mobilization that I can see happening around these ideas that are noxious to the vast majority of the American people.
Yeah, and just for example, on Medicare, so maybe what we should be doing is putting out our progressive alternative so that we can actually show people what the comparison is to what Paul Ryan's going to try to do. And, I would even argue, as we know they're going to dismantle parts, if not significantly all of the Affordable Care Act, maybe this is the time we start having a conversation about Medicare as a very popular program that is a lifeline for people. And, if this were Medicare for all, this might be a plan that actually would solve all of the healthcare needs that we have in the country without maybe some of the complexity of trying to do this in a market-based system where some of the actuarials have been maybe, questioned when it comes to the Affordable Care Act. But I think we need to just take it and propose big, bold alternatives that the public can look at and see the complete contrast of what they're offering and really what is possible.
I couldn't agree more. I think that, we talk about expanding Medicare because there is the millions and millions of dollars that hundreds of millions of dollars of propaganda against the idea of a rational healthcare system made by the people who are profiting immensely off of the broken healthcare system. They make it seem much more complicated than it is. In fact, expanded Medicare is really easy to understand. People get and love Medicare. Well, let's start lowering the age at which you can get Medicare. Right now, it's 65 for the vast majority of people. Let's lower that to 62. Let's just start there.
I heard someone else say maybe we start covering children, and you start,
exactly.
It's the other end, right? And however we do it, I think people do see that's a very positive program. I think one of the real ironies of this is I have a Tea Party uncle through marriage in another state, and I remember they were a year ago promoting Donald Trump, and I'm like, oh, there's no way. And unfortunately, we now have President-elect Donald Trump. But what's interesting is that he went through the litany of things that he didn't like about what government does. At the end of it, he said, but hey, leave my VA hospital alone. So when they know, if people know what you get from this, just like Medicare and Social Security, two of the most popular programs, we know those are proven programs that work, that the vast, vast majority of people find beneficial. Let's figure out then how to offer what our alternative would be rather than this risky voucherization of Medicare that Paul Ryan wants to do because, quite honestly, his financial benefactors find it to be profitable.
I couldn't agree with you more. We're going to be going out to a break soon. You're going to stick with us. We're going to keep this discussion going, broaden it out from Social Security and Medicare. But those are two issues where the American people agree, and what Paul Ryan and the Congress are going to try to do is not what the American people want. We're going to keep this discussion going with Representative Mark Pocan right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We're going to return with Representative Mark Pocan right after this. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Thom. And on the phone with me is Representative Mark Pocan. Representative Pocan, thanks so much for the discussion. So Medicare, Social Security are still incredibly, here's what I'd like to talk about. It seems like everything has changed. And in some ways that's true. But in many ways that's not true. In many ways, things are fundamentally the same. Everyone loves Social Security. Everyone loves Medicare. Nobody likes high drug prices. Those are the things that we've been working on, and those are the things that we need to continue working on. The playing field has changed dramatically. That is entirely new. But the fundamentals of where the American people are, they're still outraged at high drug prices. They definitely don't want somebody to come in and destroy their Medicare and put them back in the private insurance market. So how do we find those issues and continue to work on those? You know, I obviously always bring it back to the issues that my organization, Social Security Works, focuses on. But there's so many others where there is broad agreement by the American people. How do you suggest people really get involved in those issue fights?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is, like you said, identifying, one, what they may move on, but two, also what our alternative is. There's no question. Coming from Wisconsin, I am part of what I guess is referred to the Rust Belt, where Hillary Clinton did not win Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, nearly lost Minnesota. Those are all due to, I know a lot of things are talked about, but the one I focus on is the voter we shouldn't have lost, which is the working class person. My hometown of Kenosha, Wisconsin, is a town where I think it used to be 14,000 people worked in the auto industry. When I grew up, it was American Motors Company. Later it became Renault, then it was Chrysler, and now no one makes cars in that town. And they used to make $20-25 an hour or more back decades ago with good family supporting wages. And now in Kenosha, you can make maybe $14 an hour at the Roundy's distribution center, $10 an hour at the Amazon distribution center. This isn't just since 2008. This has been for decades. They felt like everyone kind of left them behind in Washington. And there are simple answers coming from Donald Trump. He was an outsider. I think they kind of went that way. Barack Obama won my home county by 13 points, and this time Donald Trump won by 1. That's a 14-point shift in an area where those shouldn't have been voters we lost. So I think a lot of it has got to be those core economic issues. So Social Security, Medicare, prescription drug prices, education, affordability, pay equity, minimum wage, some of these basic core issues that really affect people, I would argue.
Trade policies that are fair for the American working families.
Exactly. We got to, what I've always said is that what matters is what people talk about at their kitchen table. What they discuss is, can I pay my mortgage? Can I send my kids to college? Can I maybe take a vacation that year? I mean, in Kenosha, growing up in this very middle-class town, a luxury was, could you maybe buy a snowmobile or a boat? You had something just a little bit extra, but you could take care of your family, and you had those opportunities.
Congressman, we're going to continue this conversation right on the other side of this break. You're listening to the Thom Hartmann program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Thom Hartmann. We're speaking with Representative Mark Pocan from Wisconsin, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann program. I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Thom, and on the phone with us still talking about where do we go from here is Representative Mark Pocan from the great state of Wisconsin. Representative Pocan, I want, so I think there are actually two discussions, and I want to have both of them. What people can do to engage in the grassroots. You said find those organizations, those issues that you care about deeply, and get more involved in them. Find people who share your beliefs and work with them. Understand that people power is unstoppable, and that you are not alone, that standing with you are millions of Americans who want to fight for the people and not for Wall Street and transnational corporations. But that leads right into this other fight, which I think you were starting to talk about, which is the fight within the Democratic Party itself. I think that what we saw, there are lots of factors, and we won't know exactly for a long time. But as you stated, looking at the voters that we never should have lost, that the Democratic Party never should have lost, I think it's a matter of ensuring that there's never any question moving forward. Is the Democratic Party on the side of working families or not? And I don't think that I think we've seen completely and totally the repudiation of the idea that you can kind of be on the side of working families. Right, you can kind of be on the side of working families and kind of support trade deals that would decimate good-paying jobs across this country. I believe strongly that the Democratic Party needs to revision itself to get back to where it is in its heart, in its soul, the party that created Social Security, the minimum wage, Medicare, all of these programs that people love, and really make it clear what side the party is on, and that side is working families.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, when Keith Ellison said he was going to run for DNC chair, I've been very enthusiastically behind him because, Keith is one of those movement people. He's been the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, done a great job, very articulate in saying just what you were talking about. That has to be the agenda that we go out. If you're more worried about raising some money from corporations for a political party rather than being unequivocal when it comes to trade, if people feel that trade has cost them jobs, the best answer cannot be, I don't support it as currently written. That is just not a passion statement. And we need to be much more clear about, what we really believe and how clearly it affects people, again, who, for all too long now, their wages have been flat and they're watching money go to the top 1% and 2%, and they're not getting ahead. And we have to, that is our base. We, like you said, we've created the programs that have been the foundation for the middle class. We wanted to help people get into the middle class, and now we largely lost a lot of the middle class because we were not as completely crystal clear about what we believed in.
And I think that is so true. Keith Ellison running for the chair of the DNC is a fantastic example of the direction that I think the party needs to go in. And I'm very excited. There's actually great people running to try to lead the DNC in that direction. I'm excited that Elise Hogue has also said she might be interested. I support Keith Ellison for that position, but I am proud that great people want to stand up and lead the party in the direction of representing working families. And I think, as you said, Keith Ellison, I'm pretty sure you know this, but when there was an attempt to cut Social Security benefits by President Obama, he impaneled a commission called the Bowles-Simpson Commission. We can debate, why the administration was playing austerity footsie with the Republicans, but maybe that's a longer conversation. But here's what I can tell you straight. The first person who stood with us was Keith Ellison. It was at the same time, John Conyers, Keith Ellison, and Raul Grijalva with Bernie Sanders. And it wasn't even a question. And at that time, we were just fighting against cuts to Social Security. But we moved the entire center of the Democratic Party to where now expanding benefits is where the center of the Democratic Party is. And that's the kind of vision and leadership that we need in the Democratic Party. Why did no bankers get prosecuted and go to jail when they tanked the economy? People wanted that to happen.
Things, Alex, that I look at, and whether it be like that, the problem is in Washington. I think sometimes inside the Beltway, there's a lot of people who are very well educated, who make a lot of money, who among themselves are having highly theoretical conversations that they think they're scoring points in debate club at an Ivy League school, and not having a conversation with the people of the country. So when I think President Obama tried to prove the Republicans weren't serious about trying to come to the table on a budget, he put some of those ideas out there. But in reality now, the Democrats, were the face of trying to cut benefits to senior citizens. And nothing could be further from the truth from where I think the Democratic elected officials were, certainly not the rank and file people in the country were. So I think all too often we have a tendency to do that, and we have to be more clear. What I was saying back home is, I think Donald Trump gave great answers with not so great solutions. We have really great solutions. We don't give so great of answers. We get lost in making it clear and articulate about what the alternative is. And he won, but I don't think he's going to deliver on what he promised. This is a real opportunity for us to provide an alternative path to show that we really did have their backs they might have made a mistake because they, in this race, weren't happy with Secretary Clinton and chose Donald Trump. But we can even see by polling now, no one thought he was going to win, and now they're not happy. They have buyer's remorse, and it's only going to get worse.
And I think that's exactly right. I also, to the Democrats, I think there was another thing that was learned really clearly, because the Clinton campaign, who ran on drug prices, there was great policy, but no one really knew about it. Like that was an issue. But what we learned is that money does not vote itself. And having all the money on a campaign, if you don't connect with the voters and where they are, that's not a strategy for winning. So Representative Mark Pocan, I want to give you the final word here on where should people turn right now in this moment for the fight back?
Yeah, I really think people need to find within their core what issues they are most concerned about. Find the groups that are working on those issues, double down their involvement both financially and time-wise with those organizations, and be ready for the fight. And while you're going through this grief process, again, remember, we're going to pivot from mourning to organizing, and we need to do it sooner than later.
Representative Mark Pocan, thank you so much for joining us on the Thom Hartmann program. I'm Alex Lawson, and we will be right back.